If you own a clamp with an orange handle, take a look at where it was made. For more than 100 years, the answer was Chicago, the Pony, the most common American-made woodworking clamp in the country, built by a company called Adjustable Clamp. Today, that same clamp is made in China, because in 2016 the company shut its doors and a Chinese conglomerate bought the name. But here's what every woodworker knows in their bones. You can never have too many clamps. The ones actually worth owning, the real made in USA clamps, now come from just 3 American shops, and the last of them is the only company in America still making a clamp that once sat on every cabinet maker's bench. We'll get to that one. First, how the orange standard ended up overseas. The clamp came from Chicago. In 1903, a woman named Adele Holman founded the Adjustable Clamp Company, one of the earliest woman-owned manufacturing companies in American history, and it built 2 things that ended up in nearly every American workshop. The wooden handscrew, designed by a cabinet maker named Hans Jorgensen, a Danish-born craftsman whose name became synonymous with the design, and the bright orange pony bar and pipe clamps. For over a century, if you walked into a cabinet shop, a school wood shop, or a weekend garage, that orange handle was just there. It was the clamp. Nobody thought about the brand, the same way nobody thinks about who made the light switch on their wall. Then it was gone. In 2016, after 113 years, Adjustable Clamp suspended operations and closed the Chicago factory. The tooling, the patterns, and the names, Pony, Jorgensen, were bought by GreatStar Industrial, a hand tool giant based in Hangzhou, China. GreatStar is no small player. It's the company behind a lot of the tools sold under names you'd recognize, including Arrow, the staple gun brand. There were no plans to bring production back to Chicago, and there still aren't. So the brand didn't die. You can still buy a pony clamp today. It just isn't American anymore. It's a Chinese-made tool wearing a Chicago name. And that's the quiet part of these stories. The label survives, the country doesn't. Which leaves the only question that matters if you care what you're buying. Who's still making the real thing? Start in South El Monte, California, with a clamp named after the one thing it refuses to do. It's called the Kant-Twist. Kant-Twist, because when you tighten it, the jaws pull straight together instead of racking sideways and knocking your work out of alignment, the way a cheap C-clamp does. Technically, it's a cantilever clamp, a design category that distributes clamping force differently than a standard parallel jaw clamp. And that distinction is exactly why machinists noticed. Since the early 1970s, the Kant-Twist has been the clamp welders and toolmakers reach for when the setup has to be dead on, and it's built on a patent that traces back to a California inventor in the 1950s. It's a small operation, Kant-Twist clamp manufacturing, still turning out its T-handle clamps in California, still entirely US made. These aren't clamps you buy by the bucket at the home center. You buy one because you need it to hold a weld square or pull 2 parts together without a whisper of movement. And then you keep it for 30 years. Ask a machinist to hand over their Kant-Twists and watch how fast they say no. That's the first survivor. It never got famous, it never got cheap, and it never left the country. But it's a specialist's tool, and the next one is where the woodworkers start arguing. Woodpeckers is the one people have opinions about. It's a company in Strongsville, Ohio, just south of Cleveland, that makes clamps and clamping squares out of CNC machined aluminum. Precision woodworking tools built to tolerances you don't normally associate with something that holds glue joints. And it built its reputation on a simple, slightly crazy idea called one-time tools. Every so often, Woodpeckers releases a design, takes orders for a limited window, makes exactly that many, and then never makes it again. If you missed it, you missed it. The result is a cult. Woodworkers who set calendar reminders for release dates, and a resale market where discontinued Woodpeckers tools sell for more than they cost new. That's a strange thing to say about a clamp. Most clamps are the definition of disposable. You buy the cheapest ones that'll hold. Woodpeckers went the exact opposite direction and turned a shop fixture into something people collect. They're clamping squares, the anodized ones that hold a panel at a perfect 90 degrees while the glue sets run a few $100s for a set. And people line up. You can argue about whether any clamp should cost that much. What you can't argue about is where it's made. Every piece is CNC machined in Ohio. In a category where Bessie, the German clamp giant that captured a huge slice of the American market during Pony's decline, still dominates the parallel jaw clamp segment from overseas, Woodpeckers did the opposite. It made American precision the whole point and got people to pay for it. Which brings us to the last of the three American shops, and the reason we started this whole story. Remember how this started. The adjustable clamp company's very first product, back in 1903, was the wooden handscrew. 2 maple jaws, 2 long screws, the oldest clamp design there is. It was the tool the whole company was built on. And when that company went to China in 2016, that clamp, the American wooden handscrew, very nearly went extinct with it, except for one place. In Dubuque, Iowa, a company called Dubuque Clamp Works has been making clamps for more than 45 years, entirely in the United States. They make a lightweight bar clamp out of extruded aircraft aluminum, a genuinely great clamp that runs about $44 for a 2-foot model. But the thing that makes them matter to this story is the wooden handscrew with hard maple jaws and cold-drawn steel spindles. Dubuque is now the only company in America still making it. Think about that. The clamp that started the whole American clamp industry, the one adjustable clamp built its name on for over a century, now survives in exactly one factory in one Iowa town. Not because it's trendy, not because it's cheap, but because one company decided the design was worth keeping alive after everyone else let it go. So that's the list. Kant-Twist in California, Woodpeckers in Ohio, Dubuque in Iowa. 3 shops, 3 completely different clamps, one thing in common. None of them left. So go back to that orange clamp on your bench. There's nothing wrong with it. It'll hold a board just fine. But the name on it is the only American thing left about it. And the company that earned that name in Chicago is gone. That's not a tragedy exactly. It's just worth knowing what happened and worth knowing that the alternative still exists. Because here's the good news buried in this story. You actually can still buy an American clamp, a real one made by people who never left. A Kant-Twist cantilever clamp that won't rack your work. A Woodpeckers square CNC machined in Ohio. A Dubuque handscrew, the last of a line more than a century old. They cost a little more, and one or two you might have to wait for. But that's the trade. You can have the cheap orange one that used to be American, or you can have the real made-in-USA clamp that still is. And if woodworkers are right about anything, it's this. You can never have too many clamps. Might as well make the next one count.